I've returned. I hope you missed me. We'll be looking into a revision of computer applications technology, more of the theory work. This is for the final exam. I'll try to be as practical as possible and try to give you better ways for you to remember. I don't even know, I couldn't find a better way of approaching this, but I hope whatever I will do will be useful. So, getting into it, I have a question paper here that I got from the essay exams website. I just hope I'm going to drop a link to the website in the description. You can find a couple more question papers and resources for you to practice with. So this is one that I've taken. It's quite a recent one, actually, from the Eastern Cape, September paper to 2021. So this is the question paper. So I'm going to be more or less looking at each chapter and sort of categorizing it and giving you a more or less overview on each of the topics. Okay, now let's begin. Now, going to the first question, let's saying a physically disabled person who cannot use the keyboard with ease will benefit from using this specific software when he or she wants to type a letter on the computer. So what we know is that there's a physically disabled person. Okay, so it's someone with a disability. Okay, let me do some annotations here. So it's someone with a disability, right? They want to use it with ease. Okay, so they want a program or software that they can use to type a letter. Okay, so it's something that helps them put words on the screen. So all we know is that this person cannot, obviously they can't use a keyboard. Okay, so now let's see. From the options we have Dragon Naturally Speaking. I'm sure you guys probably don't even know what this program is. We have MathPad, Mouse Skills, and CorelDRAW. Now, just by looking at this, CorelDRAW cannot be the answer, because CorelDRAW, just by looking at the word draw, I can tell that this is a graphics design software. It helps these people who are more or less into logo design and manipulating images. And then Mouse Skills, well, here we're looking at typing letters, so this has nothing to do with the mouse. MathPad, well, this is a guy who's typing letters. The math part doesn't cover it. And if you're looking at something that is a pad is basically something short, you know. You're looking at something with like a few keys, you see, like a few keys, something like this. For example, if you look at a keyboard, there's something called the numpad, which is like those numbers only. So a pad will just have like specific, you know, keys that you need for a specific task. In this case, the numpad will only have numbers only, but now the MathPad will just have, you know, mathematical symbols including the numbers. So this doesn't exactly cover the letter part of it. Okay, now when we look at Dragon Naturally Speaking, now I need you to look carefully at this, the speaking part. Okay, now with modern computers, there's this thing called accessibility features, and accessibility features is basically allowing accessibility of the computer to many people despite of their disabilities whatsoever. So we're looking at people who are deaf, people who are blind, people who are this, people who are that. So for instance, people who are deaf, you know, they can't hear, isn't it? So we'll have things like the narrator, which will basically read what's on the screen to them in order for them to interpret what's on the screen. And then for deaf people, the narrator, as you know, the blind people, the narrator as well. The deaf people, well, for them to actually, you know, give off text to the computer, they need to be able to give out the words, and then the computer needs to process that and then put it into text. So in other words, we're looking for something that can change speech and it will give you text. Okay, and speech to text, meaning you speak and it gives you words. You speak and it gives you words. Dragon, naturally speaking, is basically a software that will turn speech to text. Now if you look here, they want a program that will help the person to type a letter on the computer, to type text on the computer. Now this person is physically disabled, so we can just assume that this person is mute, or no, mute will not work. Let's just say this person has no hands, so they can't exactly use a keyboard, so they can provide speech and then the computer will give text. So our correct answer there, I hope I explained it clearly. Our correct answer there would be A for Dragon, naturally speaking, which is the software that translates speech into text, which is what we call an accessibility feature that comes with the computer. Okay, moving on to the second one. Which type of data types in Microsoft Access, there we go, ensures that the field serves as a primary key? Okay, now first let's sort of debate on the word primary key. Now if you look over to Microsoft Access, there is this key we once worked with, where we talking about the primary key. Didn't do justice drawing that properly. But then if you're looking at primary key, we're looking at something that will ensure that you don't have duplications, of values within a data. When you have like fields, you see, and you're entering something into those fields, you want to make sure that you do not have duplicates. Okay, now if you look over, by default, auto number, meaning that if you have data number 1, you've entered something, data number 2, data number 3, auto number is usually the first things. It's a way of actually arranging these things. That's where you'll have your auto number. See, it was, maybe like the first one, it will call it 001, and the next one it will call it 002, and the third one being 003. You see the fact that you cannot duplicate, the values here. You cannot have two 001s, you'll have 001, 002. You can't have 001, 001, then 002, you cannot have those ones duplicate. Now a hyperlink, nope, because that's basically linking to an external source, out of the database itself. Okay, an OLE object is importing an object into the database. Okay, memo and long text, you cannot make sure that you cannot set a primary key to these things, because long text will have a very high probability of them being duplicated. So auto number would be the correct one for that question. Okay, I hope I was clear. Okay, now 1.4 says you want to use a function to search for a value that appears the most, okay, in a data range. The best function to, okay, here, one that appears the most. Now I'm believing that you do probably pure math or math lead, but either way, whatever it is you do, you look at data handling, and you've worked with data, statistics and regression, and I'm sure you remember that if you're looking for something that appears the most, you'll be looking for the mode. Okay, I'm not very good with the handwriting there, but then you're looking at for the mode. This is kind of like a general knowledge type of question, so the answer of that will be the mode. Okay, so for 1.4 we'll have D as our answer there. Okay, I'm moving on. Sales on holiday bookings over the internet are known as. Alright, now look, this is more of a type of, more of an ICT type of question. Now I'm gonna start explaining each of these. E-commerce is actually a sort of a platform over the ICT. E-commerce, we're looking at electronic commerce now. Let's look at the commerce part of the word. Okay, now when we're looking at the commerce part, we're basically looking at like the business world. You know, we're looking at selling, you see. So we're basically looking at money stuff. Okay, now when we're looking at tweets, I'm sure you guys know what tweets are. It's basically having a blog and you giving off updates. And then VoIP, which stands for Voice over Internet Protocol, is basically giving off your voice audio over the internet to another person. For instance, like in a voice call over the internet, like a WhatsApp call or Skype or something like that. And then when we're looking at ergonomics, we're looking at the improvement of technology over periods of time to match the way in which the world is expanding. For instance, when we look at ergonomics, we can look into how computers are adapted as we go with time. So now here with this question, they're looking at the word sales or holiday bookings. So it's simple to say that we're looking at money here, and then that's where you can see that we're working with e-commerce, and your correct answer for that would be A, which is e-commerce. Okay, moving on to 1.6. Okay, 1.6 says once data has been collected, it must be processed. A spreadsheet is an ideal tool of analyzing data. Which one of the features obtained below does not contribute to the analysis of data? Okay, graph and charts, you basically use it to compare data. Track changes, yes. Conditional formatting, yes. Functions and formulas. Now look at this. Now let's look at the second part of this word, which is changes. Now I'm going to explain all the way from A to D. Graphs and charts, I'm sure you basically know you can have pie charts. When you have like two pie charts, you're able to compare two types of data. So when you're doing that, you're actually analyzing the data. I'm going to look at track changes now. Conditional formatting, you'll have a table, and then you want to sort of have a graphical way of looking at each data type upon a certain argument. Maybe you have within a column you have numbers there like 50, 20, 10, and you want numbers that are higher than 30 and all of that. That's also another way of analyzing data. Then functions and formulas, it's also a greater way of analyzing data. Maybe you want to find one which appears the most or one which appears the least, or you want to find the maximum, the minimum, that kind of way. It's also another way of analyzing data. But now when you're looking at tracking changes, you see, when you have the data that you have collected and you put it in a spreadsheet, you can also edit those changes over time, but that's not a way of analyzing data. Tracking the changes is basically changing it is manipulating the data, but it's not analyzing the data, it's manipulating the data. So if you are tracking the changes, you are not analyzing the data. So the correct answer for that is B. Moving on. Okay, which method or source will be most suitable to use to gather information about residents' opinions on survey delivery? Okay, so which method or source? So we're looking at a survey basically. So we want people's opinions on something. Okay, so a survey is like a questionnaire. You see, basically you give it off to people, they answer. It's kind of like that, where you're getting their personal opinion on something. That's a survey. A community or local newspaper, it's you're giving off updates. So I don't know how that collects people's opinions. So it's easy to say that's not correct. National newspapers, it's pretty much the same as the one on B. you're giving off an update, you're not collecting information. Now interviews, you're asking questions, you're asking a specific group of people, because the thing is, when you're doing an interview, you first need to select someone who you're going to interview first. But now here we're looking at residents, and you want their opinions. Now in interviews, you hardly give off your opinion. They'll basically ask you questions and you have to answer them as is. So it's easy to say that the correct answer for this is A, which is a survey. Okay. The phrase "it's criminal if it's not original" describes, okay, so if it's not original, we're looking at counterfeits here. Okay, so we're looking at counterfeits. Okay, so what I mean by counterfeit is basically duplicating the original without permission from the creator. Now, just by me saying that, you can see that I'm talking about duplicating someone's intellectual property. And if you remember that definition, that should be all about piracy. So I don't think I need to explain much here, but then just for knowledge sake, I'll explain. The theft of intellectual property, you're not duplicating an original. Okay, so this does not cover that phrase. Hacking into a computer, you're hijacking someone's authentication, meaning you're taking off someone's privilege into that computer, so that does not cover this. Text encryption, you are not duplicating anything. Text encryption is basically a method of securing something. Let's say for instance, the word "this" can be put backwards. Basically, you encrypted it using something called cipher. Okay, now that's off the syllabus, but just for knowledge sake, it's called cipher, and cipher is just a way of obfuscating something, mixing it around just so that it's only understandable to you but not to other people. Just like taking the word encryption here and then you put it backwards. It would not make sense in that way, but to you, the one who has put it backwards, it will make sense. So that's one way of encrypting a text. Okay, so you can see that is not that does not cover the word original there. So it's criminal if it's not original. Okay, so original has been put into fake, so that's where we're looking into piracy, and the correct answer for that is C, which is software piracy. Okay. 1.9, which one of the following is not a formula that is suitable for calculations in a word table? Okay, calculations in a word table. So now we're looking at a formula. Okay, now just by looking at this, we have a number of functions, but some of them are not applicable to a word table. These, well, very much all of these are applicable to a spreadsheet, but not all of them are applicable to a word table. For instance, here we have length, sum, average, and count. Let's look at what each is for. Length is used to count how the number of characters for each for a certain string. When I'm talking about string, I'm looking about a certain word. For example, the word "is", if you use the length function, it will count the number of characters in the word "is". In this case, it will give you 2. So if you were to use this on the word "is", it will give you the output of 2. Okay, and then sum is basically the total of all things. And then average, I'm sure you know what average is. And then count, you basically counting certain things. So if you're looking at this, you can tell that the one that is incorrect is length. Length does not work in a word table. It does not. Okay, now these type of practical questions, they need you to have like a lot of experience and practice using the Microsoft Office suite or any of the other Office suites such as LibreOffice or even the Microsoft Office itself. Okay, moving on. The overall design of an entire document, including colors, fonts, and effects, is known as. Now here we're looking at the overall design. Okay, if you look at the word style, style is basically each individual thing. So we have color styles, we have font styles, and then we have effects. Okay, now when you look at a template of something, now I need you to I wish I had an example here. Okay, let me go over to PowerPoint. Okay, let me see if I can give you an example. Okay, when you have a template of something, it's basically a document that has something in it, and you just editing elements on it. You just editing. If you didn't want the word off, you can put is there. That's basically the template. It comes like something complete, and you just have to go in there and tune it up and make it yours. Okay, now when you look at theme, now let's go over to PowerPoint. Now what you see here are templates. Okay, now these templates, they come with their own themes. Now what the theme does is that it manipulates it comes with its own color, font, and effects. You see? Now look over here, these are the themes. Now look, if I type in the text, this is me. Now if I go there to home, you can see that Calibri Light is the text in which is the font in which I wrote this text in. But if now I change the theme to maybe this one, okay, now if I start using this one, this changes everything. Number one, it changes the color. You can see the background color and all of that has changed. Now remember, it was with Calibri Light, right? Now if you go over here, it's now Century Gothic. So you can see that the font changed. So it changed the color, font, and the effects of everything. Because if you check at the background, it actually used a gradient text. It used the gradient type of color. You can see here it's darker, and then going to the middle it becomes lighter. So you can see it added visual effects to it. So it changed the color, it changed the font, and the effects. Okay, auto text is basically not it. So you can see that the correct answer is C, which is a theme. And that's pretty much it. And in the next one, we'll go through with question 2. Okay, let's go.